Meeple Nation Podcast, episode 536, Games with Endgame Bonuses.
Welcome, citizens, to Meeple Nation. Grab your favorite beverage, pull up a chair, warm up those dice, and join us at the game table as we discuss board games and the board gaming world. Each week, the hosts of Meeple Nation share their love for board games and the amazing memories that come from playing games with some very outstanding people. Let us now join our hosts in their natural habitat, the game table.
You sounded so exciting. So you sounded so excited. How about that? You sound exciting too, but I just want you to know so I put your name in there correctly too.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Shasta.
Meeple Nation Podcast is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, check out their amazing toppers and their game mats and their accessories and all the glory that they have on their website. That's GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I am Andy Holiday.
I am Douglas Stewart.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Sierra Holiday.
All right, we have Sierra from Sit Down with Sierra. Shasta.
Or Shasta. Sierra, Shasta, Soraya, Sarah.
Sahara, Sabrina.
Whatever Nathan decides to call her for that day.
It did take me a while, but I finally got...
You got it.
I got used to saying Sierra instead of Soraya.
And Andy instead of Adam.
That took a longer. This is a small mouth.
He still calls me Greg, so...
That's true. All right.
I love you, Doug.
I love you too, Doug.
Aww. So much love.
You're okay, Andy.
Speaking of love, well, now there's less love. But speaking of the love for Doug, you too can see what Doug is all about. He has a bio on our website. Nathan and I and all of Meeple Nation have bios, but Doug's is probably the best.
Wow.
Let's be honest.
It is.
Wow.
You can also find links to our past episodes, and there will be links there for our future episodes as well. Check us out. We also have a link to our Patreon. We love our patrons. We are so grateful for your help in improving the podcast. If you too would like to be a patron, jump over to that link, and it will take you to our Patreon page. Sign up to be an official member of Meeple Nation. We also would love to hear from you. We love to hear from our listeners. Send us an email at meeplenation@gmail.com, and you never know, we may highlight your question or comment on one of our episodes.
While we're still on the topic, or I guess near the topic of Patreon, we definitely want to reach out and thank Paul Bedford for being our newest member of our Patreon. We appreciate you, and also Ian Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, both of you.
Paul and Ian, rock stars. Welcome, welcome. Awesome. Well, that is going to take us into our weekly banter, highlights, whatever we want to call it. It's going to take us into the part of the podcast where we get to talk about all the fun things we've been playing and doing recently. And we've got some exciting stuff here, some stuff that I really am looking forward to being able to play.
So I want to just jump in here real quick.
Go ahead.
We are on the cusp of heading up to Montana. We have a group of us, 22 of us that are all convening up at Julie's resort. I don't know what to call it.
Julie and Eric's Lodge.
Julie and Eric's Lodge. I like it. But they were gracious enough to invite a herd of us, a gaggle of us.
A murder?
It could be. It is bear country.
Depends on which game we're playing.
But they were very gracious to invite a whole lot of people into their home. And this isn't like our regular Hug a MeepleCon where we just go to somebody's house for the day and then
2
go
days.
away and
Right.
come back. No, we're going there and we're staying at this lodge, and we're going to be there for 4 nights, 5 days of gaming, and it is going to be exciting.
It's going to be fun.
Before we recorded, we were prepping breakfast we're prepping breakfast burritos that we were taking, or that you guys are taking. You guys are in charge of that. Cheryl and I are in charge of a different day, but breakfast as well. It is going to be just a ton of fun. We have a list of close to 200 games that all of us are taking up there, and I've created a nice spreadsheet, so we're going to see what we actually play. And so next week we should have a review of all the awesomeness that we played at MonCon. That's what we're calling it, MonCon.
MonCon. I like it.
The LonCon at MonCon.
So since you're on, talking, Nathan, what are your gaming highlights? We're going to have a lot of gaming highlights next week. What are your gaming highlights for this week?
Well, for this week, it's been kind of an exciting week all together, right? Because we got this coming up. But this last Saturday, we did a NateCon. I don't know what you want to call it. But Nathan Tenney was here in town for a reunion. And so we decided to have an impromptu extra game night, which apparently Nathan should come more often so that we could do this all the time. But we did.
I agree.
Yeah.
I approve.
We did
sure.
a 12-hour, it was almost 13-hour straight gaming here at my house. And it was just a ton of fun. We played a wide variety of games, some games that Doug's going to talk about. It was great. We had overall, I think we had 12 people here throughout the day, different people, and just played a ton of games. And just that weekend was kind of a highlight all on its own. So I'll leave it to that because I know Doug's got some games that...
Oh, we got to play quite a few really fun games. We got Foundations of the Rome to the table, which was great. And we threw in the Monuments expansion or module or whatever you want to call it. That was a great experience. We got to play the Great Split, which is one that I'm liking more and more.
It's growing on me.
Yeah, every time I play it, I like it more and more. But the highlight, I think, for me was we got out Heat Pedal to the Metal, and we played with the new expansion, which allows 7 players. We played it at 7 players, so it was a full player count, and we played on the new Japan map. And we threw in a bunch of the modules. So we played with the weather. We did the drafting for car upgrades and a few other things. We did like some of the sponsorship cards and some of that.
Press box.
The press box. Yep. So I already liked Heat just in its base form. Fantastic game. Adding all of this new stuff in was... it really did take it to the next level for me.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it so much more. I mean, and that's not always the case when you like take a game, that you already really, really like and you start throwing in modules. It's like, oh, this is like kind of like more advanced play. It kind of ratchets things up. It's like, oh, this is exciting or whatever. But rarely is it like, whoa, okay, this is like a whole new level of play.
Yeah.
And I really felt like it took it there. I'm super excited. It makes me regret that we haven't just been playing with some of those modules all along. But then with those modules and the expansion content all combined. And here's what was really great about it. It was 7 players at the table. I don't know that it was any longer than like a 4 or 5 player game.
It was much longer for James.
Well, James was playing a different game than the rest of us.
Yes. Yeah. I almost lapped James.
Are
you serious? Oh my gosh.
He was really struggling with the corners. I think that the strategy of making it around corners kind of eluded him just a little bit. But my point is the length of the game was still very reasonable. I mean, I think we were set up to take down an hour and a half.
Yeah, we were right close to that 90-minute mark.
Yeah, which was totally reasonable for, honestly, the amazing experience that we had playing Heat. So that was kind of my big highlight.
And this was a game that I wasn't planning on taking to Montana with us. But after we played that, we very much want to go through the circuit, where you do 3 laps or 3 races in a row, and you get sponsorships. You get stuff that you can keep on your cars from race to race, and that's going to be way fun.
Yeah.
So it's in the crate.
I was packing games, and I was like, oh, I have to take Heat, and then I had to go look at our list because I thought that you had mentioned you were going to take it. So you've got it.
Yep.
So we'll have it up there, and definitely want to do one of those tournaments.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Way excited. Have you played that, Sierra?
Yes, I have.
What do you think of Heat?
It was really fun. I would like to play it again.
Yeah, I think of the car racing games, this is definitely my favorite. I really have enjoyed
by quite a lot, right?
Formula D in the past, but this takes the best of Formula D and brings it to a game that is super fun in under 2 hours.
Yeah, a lot shorter than Formula D.
Yeah.
Yep. I totally agree. Okay, one other thing. I'm going to jump away from our game day and just mention this really quick, not to chew up a lot of time. But I also got to do something really fun this week. So it was 4th of July, and we had family over. My parents were over, and we played some games with them one of the evenings. I grew up in a home where we didn't have a lot of board. We had the typical, we had Sorry and Monopoly or whatever.
Right. Parker Brothers.
But what we did have was like, we had a little place in the cupboard where my mom kept this little basket, and inside that basket, there were probably like 10 decks of cards. We just had a ton of decks of cards. So growing up, we played a lot of those 52 card deck
52 card
52.
pickup.
I
Yeah.
thought you were going to say pickup too.
No, we didn't play that one. But like a lot of like the rummy style card games, simple, just simple card games. That's what we did. Sunday afternoon to roll around. Now, since I've kind of joined the hobby, I have a tendency to stick my nose up just a little bit at some of those games. It's like, well, that's not real games, blah blah blah, kind of thing. But my parents love to play those kind of games still. And my dad was like, we got done playing, I think it was Trails of Tucson, and my dad was like, hey, I'm going to teach you this game. You got a couple decks of cards? It's like, absolutely. So we got out a couple decks of cards, shuffled them together, and he taught us a game called Loser. Just a really simple game. It's all about just playing sets and numbers that are higher than other numbers, and you're just trying to get rid of all your cards. It's like a card sloughing kind of game, and the first one to go out wins. I forgot how fun it is sometimes to just shuffle up cards and play simple games, and I had a great time playing Loser. So that's another one I might teach to some of the not so gamery spouses that are up at MonCon. So
Cheryl would probably like that.
Yeah. So after my dad taught us that, I decided to add a couple decks to the stack that I was taking up there, and maybe we'll play a little Loser.
Yeah, you bring up memories for me when I was first dating my wife. Her family was big into playing Pounce. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Pounce, but has played with the standard deck. You're nodding your head, Sierra.
Yeah, I've played it a lot.
Yeah, this was something that we used to play at Cheryl's grandma's house. And, at the time she was an 88-year-old woman, and she was feisty as all put out. I mean, we're all huddled around like this card table trying to drop our cards down to match and to get rid of your cards. And she'd be the kind of person that would be shoving you with her elbow, shoving you with her hip checking you to get you out of the way. She'd use, the horse bite you with her on your thigh, and it was just like, but it was great fun. And we had a ton of laughs playing Pounce. But that just, as soon as you started talking about that, Doug, that brought that memory right to the forefront of my mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and the great thing is like you can still recreate those fun memories.
Yeah.
And my boys loved that game. I mean, we played it like 3 times because they were just like, let's play it again. No, let's play it again. I mean, it's fast, it plays in like 10, 15 minutes, but they like, sometimes you forget that the simple games are sometimes the very best. Yeah. Best little filler games you can come up with sometimes are played with just a little deck of cards.
Yeah, sometimes we allow our hobby to hobby us. And
yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, we kind of waxed philosophical there for a minute, but
that's okay.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Philosophy's fun.
How about you, Andy?
What have you been playing, Andy?
I have continued my trend of getting through Kickstarters as they come in.
That is awesome.
So I love that. I wish I could do that.
It's I just got a new Kickstarter called Metro Runner, and I have played it twice now.
That's awesome.
And I'm ready to teach it at MonCon. It's great. It's a cyberpunk game. You're on a metro on a train going around the city to different parts of the city, and you're trying to gain resources and you're to complete jobs like hacking jobs. You can also hack, which is an action you can take, which has these cool 9 tiles in the center, and you have to manipulate those to match certain cards to. And the Kickstarter version came with these really cool computer chip looking tiles.
Awesome.
So you have manipulations. They have different paths, and you're trying to make clear paths from one node to another node. And if you can unlock extra nodes to get extra resources or extra bonuses when you successfully hack. It's a fun game. It's a resource management game, set collection. They have a little mini module, I guess, mini expansion that came with Kickstarter. I think it'll be more fun with more players. I've only played it 2-player with my wife and I. It's one has it adds a pickup and delivery mechanic to it.
Yeah, I was looking at the description. It has networking, route building.
Yeah.
It has a lot of little mechanics on it.
It does.
I'm looking forward to playing.
But yet it's a very simple game. Like you're walking, there's a rondel, right? So you're going around on the train and you choose where you land, and all the actions are the same spaces in each of the districts. So it's not super complicated to learn how to play it. That being said, you're limited to what specific things you can do in that district because of the color of the district and everything else. Anyway, it's a great game. I've had a lot of fun with it. I can't wait to teach it.
So speaking of Kickstarters, I opened Voidfall.
Oh, good job. You took
And then I put the lid back on it.
Oh, did you punch it? Did you punch it?
No, I opened it.
Wow.
And then put the lid back on.
Maybe we can get you to punch it next.
Yeah, that's actually, I don't know if there's a ton. I did pull out the rule book and then I put it back so I don't lose it.
What? You did, and now I'm really proud of you.
Yeah. But
I almost fell off my chair.
I did also just recently get Terminus, which I am ready to play. So
Nice.
Terminus will
Moncon?
be bid. Yeah, what you said.
I should be getting another Kickstarter. Did you guys ever play Crossbows and Catapults as kids?
I did not. Is that anything like Catapult Feud?
It's similar.
Okay.
So they did a reimplementation of it. We played it like crazy when I was a kid, and that should be here tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
If it actually gets here, because it has shipped, it's supposed to arrive tomorrow. If it actually gets here tomorrow, that will also be at MonCon. I think we can get some of the husbands to play that too.
Oh, good. I would like to play that.
Non-gamers to play that.
Oh, I keep thinking maybe
awesome.
I should take, I wasn't planning on it, but maybe I should take Lupin Louie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, I bet that'd be a hit up there for sure.
Yeah, I think that'd be, or maybe you guys, Sierra, you have Lupin Louie.
I do.
And it's 8 players like mine.
It is. My piece that's 3D printed is broken, but
Oh, that's a bummer.
Oh, I wish you knew someone that had 3D printer.
Yeah.
Whoops. I think
From my side of the table, I see 2 people,
that's true.
and there's no mirror over there.
And I think I do actually have the file for it. I just need to find it. I think James sent it to me. So.
Ooh, I need to get that file from you because I'd totally print one of those out. Is that a Restoration Games game? Are they the ones doing that? Crossbows and Catapults?
I think it might be because it's Crossbows and Catapults has been, that was like 90s, I think 80s or 90s when that came out.
Yes, Restoration Games.
So one of the things that always makes me just a little bit giddy about when Restoration Games puts out one of these products that is, from the 80s or 90s or whatever, is that their philosophy is we want to make the game as fun as you remember it being.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And we've talked about this before, but I adore that philosophy because
too.
a lot of these products, if they were to just be redone as is, would just be kind of wah, wah.
Yeah.
But they really managed to capture what was magical about it and then introduce that to the game afresh.
Why couldn't they be the ones that redid Hero Quest?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
Hasbro.
did Heroes Cast? No, I'm stopping. I'm out. You guys have fun. Sierra's got my place.
That's awesome.
Because I've played Hero Quest with my kids, and you guys have had fun with it, right? They had a ton of fun.
The original one?
The original,
Okay.
I've played I bought the new one that came out
Right.
from Hasbro, and I've played that with my kids, and they had a ton of fun. So I think it's as fun for them as it was for me. But I remember it being a lot funner than it was playing it with them. I'm like, wow, this was a lot more fun.
So you're saying that Sierra's gaming palette is unrefined?
Not necessarily. I think it's fresh for her.
Oh, okay.
I remember it being fresh for me, and not so much now. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah, I love that whole philosophy of, trying to make something as fun as you remember it being, because there's a lot of things in life that you revisit and you're like, you watch some show that you loved as a kid, like Tron, the original Tron for me. And then when Disney Plus came out, that was like one of the first movies that I went and rewatched. And I was like, man, this is a dumb show. But back in the day, every time we'd go to the video store, Sierra, the video store is where you'd actually go and you'd have to get video cassettes and put it into your VCR and you'd have to rewind them. Yeah, it was pretty crazy back in the day. But anytime we would go to the video store, my parents were sick of that movie. Because every time it was like, this is what I want.
Let's get Tron. I want to watch it again.
At what point do you just buy the stupid thing?
Hindsight, they probably should have.
I mean, after 5 or 6 rentals,
Yeah.
that's silly.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's watching it again now is definitely silly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But
We-
I
we need-
remember it being really cool.
We need Restoration Games to get into the film remaking
yes.
industry.
Yeah. Because, even...
We want you to remake this movie, but we want you to remake it as good as we remember it being.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of movies that they've redone, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
why?
It's like,
No.
you made that worse?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the original was bad now, but you made that so much worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or just a lot of movies that you go back to watch that haven't necessarily been remade. You just haven't seen them in a really, really long time. You're like, I remember this show. This show is great.
Yeah.
And 15 minutes in, you're like, this show is horrible. What were we thinking?
Well, like Clash of the Titans, you remember that show way
Oh,
back
yeah.
in the day?
Yes, I
And then to try to watch that still motion, still animation.
claymation?
Yeah, claymation.
Yeah.
It's a tough standard to watch.
I still
as
like it.
opposed to the
The new one.
CGI. Well, the new one. I actually still like the original one more than
I love watching the original one still.
Yeah.
I still think it's a great movie, even though you have the claymation,
Yeah.
terrible skeletons and monsters it's just claymation. So
Yeah.
I have to admit, I am a little bit of a Star Wars purist. That original trilogy,
yeah.
That's still gold.
yeah, you really don't need any remastered versions.
No.
I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to watch. I'm not gatekeeping at all, but like, no, I think that those original 3 movies, they still hold up great.
Yep.
They're awesome.
Absolutely.
So Sierra, what are your highlights?
Well, for this past week, I mean, I had like 4 friends come over to game night, which is a lot more than I've had in a long time. And it was really, really fun. Found out that a couple of them aren't gamers at all. We played a fairly simple game and a couple of them just weren't grasping it. But a couple really got it and we had a ton of fun. We played Scarabia and then I pulled out Tenzi because that one's more simple than Scarabia.
Did they grasp Tenzi?
Yes.
Okay, whew.
Yeah.
Eventually.
If they didn't get Tenzi, you might need to look for new friends.
You might anyway.
Yeah.
They just may not come to game night so often. Well, this is maybe have just been a one-time thing.
Yeah, Nathan's right. You need new friends.
No friends of Sierra were harmed or humiliated during this podcast.
At least not harmed.
Okay, maybe not harmed.
Names haven't been mentioned. We're good.
But they know who they are.
But they know who they are.
They aren't gamers. They probably aren't listening.
Oh, that makes me
Ouch.
sad. Ouch.
That hurts.
Telling it like it is. Speaking of telling it like it is, let's jump in to the topic of the day, which is games with those sneaky little end-game bonuses.
Yeah,
Dang,
there's a lot of
dang
games.
you, Dave.
Dang you. Oh, yeah. You are not wrong. You are not wrong. That guy has zoinked me out of a win more times than I can shake a stick at.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. So we're talking about games with end game bonuses. End game bonuses can come in a variety of different, I think most games probably just cards, right? They're just end game bonus cards. Some it's tiles, some it's end game bonuses like points on a track. There's a variety of different ways you can do it. But man, anytime I play a game that has end game bonuses with Dave, I'm looking at his score over there and I'm like, did he just not like understand the game? I don't know, what's going on? And then you get down to like tallying up the points.
And he pulls out a stack of cards.
And he laps. Yeah, he pulls out a stack of cards and like makes 2 laps around the score track. Anyway, he has stymied us on a number of occasions. And I don't know, generally speaking, I'm okay with in-game bonuses. I do feel like there are a few games out there that use them a little heavy. Like if you don't go for in-game bonuses, you will lose the game.
Yeah. I think when an end game bonus holds that much weight on the score sheet, it's not part of the game, right? It's just, for me anyways, it takes away from the game, takes away from the enjoyment of the game because you got some, and a lot of these are individual, like if in using Dave as the example, if Dave makes this certain scenario happen on his board or for him, whatever, where those are individual for him, and that's great for like 1 or 2 things. But yeah, like Doug, like you mentioned, when Dave pulls out the stack of 10, 12, 15 cards, and each of them are giving him 10, 15, 20 points. And you're like, okay, well, this whole game was moot at that point, right? Why were we doing this? We should have just got to the end game bonus and yeah.
Now the person, to play devil's advocate, the person like Dave would then argue, well, you had just as much opportunity to go for that strategy as I did.
And he's not wrong.
And they're not wrong.
And I agree with that to a point. I think what makes a good game is when there's not one clear strategy. Like you have to do this to win. If there are multiple paths to victory, then I think that makes a great game. If it's to where, okay, if you don't go for in-game bonuses in this game, you will lose. Is it a great game? It may be a fun game. Is it a great game? Probably not. But I think of like this brings to mind, I know it's not on our list, but it brings to mind Applejack. So in Applejack, you have the in-game bonus that based on how many different types of apples that you produced in that very last production round. And the points can be huge if you produce all 7 kinds of apples. Like huge.
Way huge,
right?
yeah.
I can see it in the plays that I've done, those who did not focus on diversity, it seemed like they didn't gain enough benefit throughout the game, nor at the end when they double their score from specific apples, right? Because you still subtract the 3 for the round 3. yes, you get to double your score, but it doesn't seem like you make up that lost ground for not diversifying and for focusing on, 2 or 3, 4 different types of apples.
Yeah.
You still get the bonus for producing those 3 apples. I think it's base of 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken, on the
third round. Yeah. You have to have at least, because it's the number of apples minus the round.
No, I mean for the in-game bonus. I think.
Oh, okay,
I think you have to have either have produced 3 or 4 to even get a bonus at all. And then if you produce all 7, then you get this, I think it's like 35 points or 36 points or something like that.
Yeah,
so
it's huge bonus.
right? And I don't think it's, in my plays of it, and I've played it a fair bit, that's one game that I think the game is great. It's my favorite Uwe Rosenberg game, but the in-game bonus I think is a little unbalanced. You almost have to try to get diversified for as much as you can, right?
Yeah.
To at least produce 4 apples in that last round so you can at least get 1 point from it to count as, I produced this kind of apple to get those in-game bonuses. I think there's a few games like that, but in my opinion, that game is a really fun game, but I do think the in-game bonus is unbalanced.
Yeah. And I think I do like it, like what you mentioned, Andy, the multiple paths to victory, where some of the end game bonuses that will do it. And I'm thinking recently, you talked about the 4th of July, Doug. We played Draft and Write Records there. And surprisingly enough, that didn't come up as having an end game bonus as a mechanic when pulling BGG. But I mean, when you look at all the bonuses that are there and you're tallying up all those scores, like your singles, your albums, your harmonies, all those, and I don't know if they're necessarily bonuses because all that information is on the board.
Yeah, and you're technically earning them as you go.
Right.
Now, I will say though, sometimes there's a player that will really run away with the what are they? The objective cards,
The goals.
the
yeah.
goals. And if you're not paying attention, then when those points get tallied at the end, it has that like kind of shock and awe. It's like, it's like what? Where did all those points come from? You did what?
Yeah. Well, especially like we were talking about, like I was leading on to, is that game where my score was pretty minuscule until I got to the point where I scored my singles and my albums, because I had 7 of each.
Oh, yeah.
And so you multiply that 7 times 7, and I got 49 points out of that, which was huge.
And that is at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You don't do that until the very end.
And had I realized that Draft and Write Records, looking at my list, was a end game bonus, it would have been probably my number 1. But
yeah, you really like that game.
I love that
and
game.
I do too. I think it's fantastic.
But since it didn't come up when I queried the list, then so it didn't make my top 5 at all. But thinking about it now, it totally would have made my number 1, because you nailed it. I love Draft and Write Records. I think it is a phenomenal game. Have you played that one, Sierra?
Yeah, I was there playing it on the 4th.
That's right.
She was with us.
Yeah. What do you think of that game?
Oh, it was awesome. I loved it a lot.
Yeah.
Took a minute to get the grasp of it, but then it was great.
Yeah, I'd almost put this in the classification of a game similar to my enjoyment, like Twilight Inscription, because Twilight Inscription, as you're explaining the game, because our friend Jared was there and he set this Looney Tune video of mocking us explaining the game, because you get this, and you have a similar experience to teaching Twilight Inscription. But Twilight Inscription is such a great game, and I know, Sierra, that's a game you very much enjoy. And I know that you very much enjoy beating people when you're playing that. I think Draft and Write Records just is above the bar for me. And a game that has, it's not heavy end game bonus, but there is some end game bonus mechanics that are in there.
Nice. I'm really looking forward to talking about our top 5s, because my top 5 list is full of games that I think do the end game thing very, very well and have a good balance. One of them that didn't quite make my top 5 that I think does a really good job is Endless Winter Paleo Americans. And it didn't make my top 5 because it's not that big of a part of the game, but I think that's why I like it, because it's there, but it's not in your face. Like, you have to do this or you're going to fail.
Right.
The end game bonus really with Endless Winter is with the animals that you collect. You can do what's called tipping them for an effect, but then they won't do anything for you. That you get an immediate bonus instead of an end game bonus. But if you're collecting those animals, it's like a set collection kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, players can really run away with those sets. Now, the reason why I think it's so well done is because I have seen players do exceptionally well at the game in general, and they did really well at those set collection that set collection aspect, and they were able to pull off the win. But I have also seen players who kind of go really heavy into that, and it's not enough. Right. Yeah. It's not like this is the strategy. If I just put all my effort into this end game scoring thing, then I'm going to win for sure. That's definitely not the case. You have to play the whole game well, but then you have this end game thing, that's sort of brewing, and you need to watch it. It's kind of one of those little things. It's like, ooh, they've got a lot of cards. They don't have as many, but they're doing really well over here on this board. And so I feel like it's one of those things that's really well balanced with Endless Winter. Fantastic example of, I think, really good end-game scoring.
So I think going right along the lines, that is parks where you're trying to go through and you're visiting parks and you're going to amass those points, but more times than not, that it's not, I mean, you can be doing really good at that, but you need your end-game bonus to push you over the edge of your opponent.
Yeah. And as I recall, the last time we played that, it was, or at least the last time I played it, it was me and you and Lydia and Cheryl. And Cheryl did exactly that. Yes. And it pushed her over the edge. Now, it wasn't like a blowout. Again, it wasn't this overpowered thing that happened. It was well balanced with the rest of the play of the game, but she took great advantage of building up those end game points. And then when the dust settled, it was like, wow, that was a solid win.
Yeah. And this is so a game that Dave wouldn't win because it doesn't give him enough edge to just do that, but it is enough to put you over the edge. However, I mean, I look at Andy. Remember when 3 years ago, when we went to BGG and we were just freshly introduced to fantasy realms, and that's a game where it is all strictly. I mean, your score is determinate at the end of the game, right?
Yeah.
It can vary. There's really no way to track that.
Yeah,
up
it
until
fluctuates
the end of the game
constantly throughout the game. Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's a game where that is. I mean, that is the end game score. The end game bonus is what cards are going to match.
Your end game score is the game.
Yeah.
Same with, I'll just throw out Red Rising since we're talking about games that are like that. Red Rising is very much the same. It is all about the end game. And interestingly, I think that's why Dave loves both of those games so much. I mean, Dave was by far the biggest champion of Red Rising.
For sure.
Yeah.
It hit for him way more than it hit for the rest of us. And that's probably a big reason why.
I don't know. It made one of my highlights for BryceCon. So
yeah, that was
for different reasons, but
different reasons, but yes,
kind of like Gollum,
kind of like Gollum. Yep. So one of the games on this list I know Sierra is a big fan of, and that's Comet. Sierra, this is a game you really enjoyed at BGG.
Very much so.
And with end-of-game scoring, I think they did this well too, because I've seen people try to go to the end-of-game. So there's the set collection aspect of this game where you can, if you get a lot of the same types of animals, then they'll give you more and more and more points based on how many you have. Plus, if there's the lizards. So if you get the iguana and there are three different types of lizards. I can't remember what they are at the top of my head. Sorry?
Gecko and salamander.
There we go. Ask the person that loves the game. The gecko and the salamander. If you get all three of those, then you're going to get end-of-game bonus points as well. I think it's well done because now if you get a lot of the set collection animals, it can score you so many points to where no one's going to be able to touch you. That being said, they're not the easiest to get, and you don't gain the benefits of the other cards that you're playing as you're saving dinosaurs. You get so many in-game benefits from a lot of those cards that you don't get if you go for end-of-game scoring solely for the end of game scoring. So I think it's balanced in that way where you're sacrificing a lot of ability to be able to maybe save more dinosaurs and get more dinosaurs to the safe zone if you're just going for static points. So I think it's well done in that aspect. Yes, you can score a ton of points, crazy number of points. It's not the easiest to do, but it can pay off if you can do it right. But there is a sacrifice to doing it.
So you live and die by it.
And a huge sacrifice at that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting one to bring up because that's another one of those that in my mind, it fits into that, like the whole game is in-game scoring, right? Everything you do in the game, you're building toward the end game score. You're going to tally it all up at the end.
Right.
But it gives you different paths. Like you can score, like you said, there's the set collection, but then you can also do it with, I've only played it a couple of times, so you'd have to help me out. But there's like certain cards that'll give you X amount of points for every this type of card you've saved, or that kind of thing.
There are,
right?
and those are a little harder to get a lot of bonus points for. Like there's some, you get, and this is typically your hero, your dinosaur hero that you start with.
Yeah.
I know there's one that you get extra points for every dinosaur that has a red egg on the bottom. It seems to me those are a lot harder to get a lot of points on. I mean, it's possible, but it's so hard to find and get those cards at the right time because you're drawing a lot of random cards. I mean, all the cards are going to have a static point value on them. So you're tallying those up at the end of the game, but that kind of depends on what dinosaurs you play. Okay, this is worth a lot of points, but I'm also having to start it way in the back and it's going to be huge. Whereas if I've saved some dinosaurs that will allow me to bring that forward a few numbers and have it hatch on a closer nest.
Yeah. But it all feels pretty balanced to me.
I agree.
I feel like it's pretty balanced. And I think that's ultimately what I was trying to say is I think that's a good point because they have all these different avenues of endgame scoring, but they're balanced against each other. There's not one that's like, oh, well, you have to do this, that kind of thing. It's like you want to take multiple paths and balance yourself and potentially put other players in check if they are running away with one of those strategies or whatever.
For sure.
And I think that's fun. I think that's actually a lot of the fun of Comet is they've done a good job of balancing all of those endgame scoring mechanisms.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a great game.
It is a good game. Yeah, I really like it.
So we talked about Fantasy Realms, but another one that's kind of like that, but not as heavy, is a recent one that we've enjoyed very much, Forest Shuffle, where
did you just say not as heavy?
Yeah, not as heavy. Well, okay.
I would say
it's probably more heavy than Fantasy
Not
Realms.
trying to call you out, but yeah,
no, you're
there is a
right.
lot more meat on the bone to Forest Shuffle than Fantasy Realms.
Absolutely, you are correct. But I guess I was going comparing it. I mean, we were just talking about Comet as well. But I mean, it is a card game, right? And it is all about the set collecting, and it is all about matching all sorts of different set
end game point combos.
And we just got the Alpine expansion, and I don't think any of us have played it yet.
No, but I looked through those cards really thoroughly, and they look great.
Yeah,
I haven't played Forest Shuffle yet.
You haven't played Forest Shuffle yet?
You'll like it. It's good.
Is somebody taking it to Montana?
Yes, I am.
You are? Okay.
Yeah,
with the expansion?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
I'll have it.
Yeah, you need to play it because it is very much, if you enjoyed Fantasy Realms, has a similar feel, but not as volatile as Fantasy Realms, where you're building your tableau and you're trying to build onto your tableau. Like you have animals that require 8 different trees. If you have all 8 different trees, you're going to get a huge bonus for that. Or if you have foxes, you get bonuses for all the hares that you have. Or if you have, what is the horse tree, the
horse chestnut.
The horse chestnut. For each one of those, that the factor that you have of those increases the factor of points that you're going to get.
To point scale. Yep.
Yeah. And there's several cards that are all building on that, and every little card, and there's so many different avenues that you can take to try to get points. And when you spend your cards, the cards go out in display in front of you so that if you need to draw cards, you can actually draw cards that somebody else just discarded that they spent to advance their score, but they drop something that may be super beneficial to you. And just the way that whole game kind of blends together is just phenomenal. I think it is. It comes together so well. I know it's a game that Richie really, really loves, and it's a game that I don't really, really love playing with Richie.
I mean, I agree a little bit, but that's just because Richie's very good at it.
Yeah,
and
it's the same.
You want it to be a little more competitive.
A lot of the reasons why I don't like to play games that have end-game bonuses with Dave.
Yeah, because
you feel like you're doing well, and then their score is 100 points more than yours, and you're like, come on.
I mean, there's a ton of different scoring combinations in that game. If there was a weak one, I think it's with the bats. And if you've played it, you know what I'm talking about. But one thing that I thought was really interesting is that the Alpine expansion added a bunch more of those.
You were telling Greg about that.
Yeah. So I think they kind of recognized that and did a little bit of a balancing tweak with that Alpine expansion. Not that the game was necessarily broken before, but I think that particular avenue for points was a little harder, and I think they've fixed that. So I'm excited to play it.
This is another game that Jody just mops the floor with me. He doesn't mop the, I mean, our games are actually fairly close, but I'm yet to defeat Jody in Forest Shuffle.
One day, Nathan. One
day. I'm hoping. I've beat him in Azul a couple of times. And what else are we playing that he just always, sea salt and paper. He always just sticks it to me in sea salt and paper. Pat.
Is that on BGA?
Yeah.
How come you're not inviting me to those?
Jeez.
I don't know, because lately you've been whining about all the games that you've lost at. It seems like you like to play games that you beat me at more.
I'm not complaining. No, I'm
Who
not.
doesn't, Nathan? Who doesn't?
I'm only complaining about the ones I feel some burnout on.
Yeah,
because
no,
I've played
I get
them
it.
so many times.
Yeah.
I am, for the record, totally fine with losing if the game is fun.
Yeah, no, I'll
Try that again.
aha, first try. I will extend an invitation to Sea Salt and Paper for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Speaking of games, so it sounds like Forest Shuffle is it similar to Fantasy Realms that it's basically you're building your in-game points as you play the
Yes.
Yes,
game?
it is.
One that falls into that same category for me, as I think of these games, is Tiny Towns.
Yeah.
You're building your town up, and the whole point is to try to get certain buildings next to other buildings, or meeting those point requirements that are printed on each of the cards, which are random. Like there's a lot of different combinations that you can do in Tiny Towns, and the just trying to manage to build everything that you can right next to each other by putting the resources down in the right spot. And I love that game. That's one of those spatial reasoning games that is very difficult for some people. I've never seen someone completely lose it on a game like Dave did on Tiny Towns. It was crazy to watch.
Wait, tell this story. I haven't heard this before.
So, well, part of it was because I was tired of Dave always having to have the board face him. So I put the cards sideways so they would be the same for everybody. And apparently, but these are just shapes. There's not words. They're just shapes. So I'm like, it doesn't matter. They're just shapes. If it's oriented differently, it's the same shape and you're going to be rotating it on your board anyway. It doesn't matter. But he claims that's why. But he struggled. Like he could not get any of the shapes to work. He almost had a board full of resources without buildings by the end because the spatial reasoning he just struggled with it. But
so that seems maybe a little similar to the first time we played
Look at the
Stars.
Yeah. So did you play Look at the Stars, Andy?
I did.
Okay. You didn't have the issue that
No.
Dave and Richie had.
But I do that
Richie
for a living,
in particular.
So Richie struggled big time with
Yeah,
it.
that was you brought up Tiny Towns, and that's the first thing I thought of was Richie playing Look at the Stars, where
Well, everyone else was done. And then it was like, okay, are we ready to flip the next card? And Richie's like, nope, is everyone else done? Because I need to take the card and pick it up and bring it over to my board and
I could
rotate
use
it in 3D space and look at it.
yeah, because he could not visualize that at all.
It just seems crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, after losing to Richie so many times, I was like,
You're like, yes.
we should play this more often.
Let's play again.
Then he very much liked the game, and both he and Carrie wanted to. I mean, they borrowed it and played it, and I don't know if he's improved on that, but it was still very enjoyable.
Richie struggles with Tiny Towns too. He just struggles with the spatial reasoning as well.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just one of those things that some people have a hard time visualizing that. Like his son Porter does great on those games, but Richie struggles with spatial reasoning games.
Yeah, and I like same thing with me and my wife in games like Patchwork. Right. I like to think that I'm a spatially oriented person and I can do well. She devastates me in Patchwork. It's a rare occasion that I win. And then we started playing New York Zoo on BGA as well. And yeah, I mean, I just tried a whole new strategy where like, okay, I'm not breeding. I'm just trying to get enclosures out there to fill up my board no matter what I do. And those types of games, I don't stand a chance.
Sounds like you might be the best player on her team.
It might be. Both of those games you're playing on your own board, right?
I know, but if you're setting her up for good stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I am, but she just sees it at a whole different level than I do. And I mean, I'm yet to defeat her in New York Zoo.
Really?
Yeah. And
Cheryl's
it's
undefeated.
a rare occasion that I win Patchwork. And I've played that game dozens of times, close to 100 times.
We should play Patchwork after this.
Well, it's only a 2-player game.
It's okay. 3 of us versus Nathan.
Yeah, well, we could do it with New York Zoo, and you'd have the same result. You'd be able to defeat me soundly in New York Zoo.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so I can beat Richie in Look at the Stars, and everybody can beat me at New York Zoo.
All right. So going back to games that Dave has destroyed us on within the game bonuses, when you guys first brought that up, that Dave would always tends to follow that strategy, the first game that came to my mind was Underwater Cities.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Because he loves those bonus cards that you can get in the middle of the board. Oh my gosh. If he can, he's buying one as often as he can. Like if you take the space that allows you to gain one of those cards, he's like, oh, you took my spot. Like he thinks he owns that spot because that's what he goes for every game. And he has annihilated us in that game with end of game bonuses.
Yep. In fact, the first time I played that, we played it at my house and it was with you and Dave. And I had lapped him on the score chart prior to tallying those up. And then he came and added all of his up and had pulled just past me. And then I had managed to get like one of them and just barely eked out the win ahead of him. So it was really close, but I was just like seriously, he made a whole lap on those endgame bonus points.
Yeah. Which, it worked out that game may be balanced. It's just a strategy that Dave likes to go for.
Yeah.
But because you had one and you still won the game.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think with that one, I don't think it's a balance.
I don't think it is either. It's a great game.
It is.
And that's, I think I'm okay with that if it is a path to victory.
Yeah.
And it's not one that you have to take. It is, I think, smart to at least get 1 or 2, 3 of them to get those in-game bonuses. But I don't think it's necessarily required to win. We need to play that game up some more. That's a great game.
It really is. Yep.
Yeah, it's one that I think I introduced you guys to.
You did.
It, and
Yep.
I think I haven't played it since then.
I introduced Doug, and I have played it a couple times since. I've actually got it pulled out, put up on the table, and then more people showed up to game night. I'm like, okay, we're not playing this. We're going to play something else.
Yep.
So
As it happens sometimes.
Alchemist is a fun one.
Nathan loves Alchemist.
Yeah.
That was like one of my favorites when we were like still building up our giant number of games now. It was one Amaro, Dad, and I would play all the time.
Was that you?
It was me. I silenced everything but my computer.
Yeah, we played a lot of Alchemists, and really the in-game bonuses on that are from artifacts.
Yeah.
And artifacts and when you publish, right,
Yeah.
Sierra? So throughout the game, you're trying to publish theories of what you think each of the different ingredients, what properties they have. There's a red property, a blue, and a green property, and then it's going to have a positive or a negative symbol on it. And you're trying to decipher. That's the whole point of the game, is to decipher what the different properties are of each of the ingredients. And throughout the game, when you publish a theory, you can potentially get end-of-game bonus points by publishing that theory. Plus, you get points for artifacts, and there's the final expo at the end of the game that you can create potions and show what an amazing alchemist you are by creating all these potions and getting extra bonus points. But I love that game. It's a great deduction game. I need to convert you, Nathan.
Well, I jokingly put this as my number one.
Did you really?
So that you could see it.
I missed it.
This was my number one game that was going to say
The one
for
I
my
guessed?
top 5. Yeah. Yeah, definitely not my number one game.
That's funny that you had it, because I didn't even see your list. I just guessed that you had put Alchemist.
Yeah, no.
Now I know you so well.
Yep. So I wanted to have more when we did the showdown episode. I wanted to have more downvotes for Alchemist.
Oh, wow. That's messed up. Jeez, Nathan.
And it's not even going to be in the top 5 now. So I thought the whole thing is off, because I thought for sure that was going to be in your top 5. But
Nope, not in my top 5.
nope. Looking at your top 5, though, there's some good games in there. And I can see why it's not in your top 5.
I concur.
Plus, it's a crappy game.
It's not a crappy game.
Sierra's just giving you the stink eye. It's like, how dare you, sir?
Oh, no, I didn't guess that. I guessed Wingspan, didn't I?
You went to Wingspan, and then you, I think you converted it to what you thought it was.
Yeah. That's another one, though. Wingspan, what a great game. Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
It really is. It's great. And Nathan, you have a mental block of some sort, because Wingspan is really, really good. Now, that is a good one to bring up for in-game bonuses. For this reason, I'll just get your take on it, because maybe I'm wrong. But it seems to me like through expansions, they kind of had to fix the in-game scoring with that game. When the game was fresh, the idea was you were given 2, and then you picked one, and that was kind of it. And and in the early days of playing Wingspan, I don't know that those endgame bonus cards really played into the overall score a whole lot. Sometimes when a game was close, they were the deciding factor, but I don't know that they were a really big deal. I feel like with future expansions, they introduced cards that allowed you, if you played them, they would allow you to pick 2 more of those and choose one. And it gave you more and more and more avenues if you went with that strategy.
They had some of those in the original game as well.
Yeah, there were some, but it wasn't.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't as many, and it didn't feel like it came up as often. so you couldn't Dave up the game.
Well, and it goes beyond that, right? It goes beyond just those bonuses. So into game scoring for Wingspan, you have tucked cards, you have food on top
on the
on
cards, eggs,
Yep. Now they added with the expansion with the nectar. So whoever has played the most nectar on each of the columns, each of the habitats, right? So there's a lot of in-game points in Wingspan.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't considered that those others were also in-game mechanisms. So that is true. So I guess maybe specifically I'm talking about those bonus cards.
Yeah. And
It felt like it became easier to acquire them as the game got more expansions. And maybe it was just because there was more cards that allowed you to draw those.
it could be. I think
not sure.
They made it so that they could still use the same cards because the cards will have a percentage of cards in the game that fit that criteria. Mm-hmm. And so when they brought out expansions, they made sure that ratio stayed the same.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just luck of the draw at that point because there are so many cards. If you add all the expansions in, that's a ton of cards.
Yeah.
And it may just be luck of the draw at that point, but it's luck of the draw anyway. I mean, your chances,
For sure.
They've made it the same. They've made the ratios the same. So your chances should theoretically be the same to be able to complete those. Maybe it's just that we weren't as well versed in the game as at the beginning. And now that we are, or maybe they've come up with cards that allow you to look at more cards and look at more options and gain cards that maybe you have a higher chance of completing later in the game once you have actually started building up your tableau and you're like, okay, well, this one's, there's no way I can complete it, but hey, this one, I've already got max points for it. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, and I think
I could see that.
Going back to Doug's point, though, I think that is part of the reason why the game lost its shine for me. Because when it first came out, I really very much enjoyed Wingspan. We played a ton. But as the expansions came out and there was just more avenues that I guess for me, that it just didn't feel like I thought I was doing good and then I wasn't. And for, I guess, that's just one of the factors as to why it's lost its shine for me, right? The fact that too many expansions, I feel, muddied the water, that it was just...
It's amazing how different we feel about that.
Yeah. And it just...
But I get it. I get it. I respect it.
And there's more than just that is why the game doesn't stick out for me, and why I eventually culled the game, much to my wife's chagrin. She was like, of all the games you could have culled, that's one I would have played. Well, you haven't played it in a long time, so it's gone.
It's because you didn't ask her to. Maybe if you would have played it more with your wife, you would have had a better opinion of that game.
Maybe, yeah. In fact, there's a lot of games that I've played with my wife, and then I play with somebody else, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go back to my wife for that one. And it's not because I win, because I definitely have a track record of losing more games than I win, which is not why I play games. But I mean, there are several reasons why Wormspan is no longer in my collection.
Wingspan.
Whatever.
Wormspan is awesome.
Wormspan is awesome. I love Wormspan.
The one Wormspan I haven't tried, and we were at the other day. The city had its annual city celebration, and there was a lady who lives in the neighborhood who was aware that I was a gamer, and we were getting our tickets for food for they had a luau, and she was there handing out tickets, and she was way excited. Oh, we just got Wormspan. Have you played it? And I haven't, but Cheryl has, and Cheryl played it, and she really enjoyed it. So maybe I still won't get it.
Yeah. Good one.
But
that was funny.
I'll try some other games with her that scratch the same itch. I think that I enjoy more. But anyways, I can't diss on Wormspan since I haven't played it. But
I think you'll like it better than Wingspan.
I'm taking that one to Montana as well, so maybe we'll get a chance to play it. I think you'll like it. I think, especially since you did like Wingspan when it first came out without the fluff and all that kind of stuff. I mean, this is just the pure base Wormspan game, and I think it might have some real appeal for you there.
And I have considered repurchasing Wingspan and just sticking with the base game and see if that's something that Cheryl and I could play.
You should have just traded Amara.
Yeah.
She would have loved the big box, and
she would have
her regular box.
Yeah, Amberly really wanted it too.
At the time, I didn't want the game at all, but I think Amberly decided that it wouldn't have been beneficial for her.
Well, I think she ultimately just decided it wasn't really in her price range. And she already has a copy of the base game, and she really likes the base game.
Yeah.
In its just base form. So
Yep. See, her and I could play it together.
there you go.
Do you have the base game, Sierra?
I do not.
Yeah. We can't play together then.
Amara does.
I can play with Amara then.
We have 2 copies at my house.
Except for Amara will only play with Matthew, so...
I can just borrow hers or Dad's.
All right, there you go. As long as there's no expansions in it.
You'll have to borrow Amara's
Yeah,
because expansions are
There we
awesome.
go.
sometimes.
All right. Well, this episode is running out of time. Are there any others that you want to bring up for any particular reason?
There are so many.
There's a lot. Our list has a lot more. We could talk about these for a long time.
We could go on for 2 or 3 episodes. Like Sagrada, I really like Sagrada. Sagrada Artisans, I still need to break open that.
Yep. I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that's when I get to play with you.
Yeah.
Lydia loves Sagrada. We actually play that regularly.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's good. Some new games that we've gotten that I haven't played that we've had for a while that I hear are phenomenal games. Trailblazer, the John Muir Trail. I've heard reports that is an outstanding game. The Fox Experiment, I hadn't played it. Got rid of my base edition because I have the deluxe edition coming. Simple little game, Wild Space is supposed to be really good. Arcane Arising, I've had forever. You have that too, right? Tim?
Yep, I do.
Both of us have that. Neither of us have pulled that off the shelf.
Just
machine.
need to get it played.
Flamecraft, we almost played the other day, and that's one I'm looking forward to playing.
That's a good one.
Yep, I like it.
I got a couple that I'm actually taking to MonCon that are on this list. Amara requested that we take Puerto Rico.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Puerto Rico will be going to MonCon with us. I'm also taking Terra Mystica. It's been too long since I've played it, so we are taking Terra Mystica. Maybe Nathan can play it so he can remember how to play.
Yeah, no, I would.
You have the big box.
Yeah, I would like that.
And that's a great game. And then Wayfarers of the South Tigris, Viscounts of the West Kingdom. Both of those are just awesome games. I love the South Tigris games. The West Kingdom trilogy, they're amazing. I don't remember a whole lot about the North Sea because it's been so long since I've played them and I don't own them yet. And then Silver and Gold. That's
such a great.
It's just a quick, easy, really fun game. We've actually played that quite a bit just recently. So that's one that gets to our table fairly often. The scoring on that's straightforward and fun. And there's a little bit of strategy involved with the bonuses that you get at the end of the game. And depending on which cards you have and which ones have bonuses for other colors. And yeah, it's a fun game.
Suburbia is another one that's on your list that I need to play again.
I do too. I've played it twice and it's a good game. And I have all the expansions for it. It needs to hit the table more often because it really is a great game.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on with that game, a lot that you can do, a lot of paths to victory. It's a very cool game.
Yeah. And one's on your list, Doug. I guess actually they're on both of our lists. But Aqua, Biodiversity in the Oceans, and Lions of Lydia. Those are games that I'd like to get back to the table again, too.
Excellent games. Yep.
Not Moon, though, unless we have more people.
I like Moon. Moon's really good. And the end game bonuses in that I think are really good. I like how they don't come out until kind of the third era. And then you kind of have to decide whether that's something you want to go for or whether you've already got an engine built to produce other points. And I think the decision-making space there is pretty cool.
Why isn't Planet Unknown on this list? It should be.
It should be.
I thought it was.
Phenomenal game.
Yeah, it's not on.
I love that game.
Didn't come up as a
play that
listed
again.
mechanic.
What's
I've
that?
only played that once.
You've only played it
Play
once?
again.
Well, we are going to be getting the Kickstarter with the new expansion. So,
Oh, awesome.
and
And
it
it
has
is
a
going
lid.
to Montana.
Heck
And it
yeah.
has a lid.
And it has a lid.
An amazing lid.
That's the list
So
I saw it on.
So excited
I was like, I
about
swear
that
I
lid.
saw Planet Unknown on a list somewhere recently. It was that list.
In fact, that one may have made my top 5 had I thought about it because that is a great game.
Yeah, because I mean, and you do have the goals between the players and
And your cards, right?
and your cards. Yep, your civilization cards. Yeah, that would have been a good one.
Well, we talked about it, so it was a good one.
It is a good one.
Yeah,
It would have been a good one to have before we made our top
that's
5.
true. That's true. But hey, it's a done deal now.
Yep, I would have put that above Alchemist.
Jerk.
Surprising no one.
Cool. That's an awesome list of games that have end of game scoring bonuses. I think we have talked about some pretty sweet games. I'm excited about our top 5 next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure.
Until next time.
We'll see you scoring up those end game bonuses, and you pull out the win. I'm gonna give you a wedgie at the game table. I don't know. I've just had some sour experiences with those end game bonuses.
Who hurt you? Oh,
Dave.
that's right. It was Dave.
It was Dave. Definitely was Dave. Again and again and again.
Thank you for listening and being a part of Meeple Nation. If you would be so kind as to follow, subscribe, share, and rate or review this podcast, it really helps to spread the fun. You can be more involved in supporting the podcast by joining the nation at patreon.com/MeepleNation, or you can find a link at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. And while you're there, look at all our extra content. There are links to all our past episodes, a wide variety of blogs, pictures from our Instagram feed, and bios for all the hosts and our awesome bloggers. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Meeple Nation. If you would like to chat with the hosts or other members of the nation, you can join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. We hope to see you again at a game night, a con, or maybe a suspense-driven evening of werewolf. Thank you for listening and supporting Meeple Nation, and stay tuned for next week's episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We very much want to thank our patrons who help keep the podcast running. I personally want to thank my co-hosts for all the help they provide with both content here on the podcast, in addition to what we have available on our website. Without them, the podcast would not happen. If you too would like to support the podcast, you can join the nation at patreon.com/Meeple_nation. Or you can find a link to Patreon at the top of our webpage, meeplenation.com. If you have any questions, comments, or games you feel should be on our radar, you can always reach us at meeplenation@gmail.com. We can't wait to hear from you. I am grateful to Doug and Andy who helped me edit episodes, and I want to thank James and Kim Clark who do the editing on our blogs and on our webpage, which can be found at meeplenation.com. We want to thank Brain Detergent for our music. If you want to find more from him, you can follow his links that can be found on our webpage, or simply search for Brain Detergent on YouTube to find more of his tracks. Thank you again for listening and being part of the Meeple Nation community.